Breakfast Show on BBC Radio 2. He's best known as the frontman of Keane, but he's here today with his latest solo music. Tom Chaplin, good morning.
Good morning, Gary.
How are you?
Do you want the honest answer?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit tired this morning.
Yeah.
I have two children, an 8-year-old girl who sleeps for England. She won't even be up yet.
Yeah.
And a 2-year-old boy who wakes up furious at about 4 o'clock every morning, banging on the side of his cot saying,
Let me out! Let me out!
I want to go downstairs. So, I mean, I'm used to early starts, but he pushed us to the max this morning, so I'm a little bit tired.
All right, I'll be gentle with you.
Please do.
Apparently you've got a good snake story, is that right?
Quite a good snake story. I mean, years ago, I was in South Africa on my gap year, and I went to the Kruger National Park. It's a fantastic park in South Africa, and we got guided round by this young guy who was obsessed with snakes, and he saw this. There was this log pile at the place we were staying. He said, "Oh, I've just seen a Mozambique spitting cobra go in there." And we were like, "Okay, well, let's
keep our distance."
He was like, "No." He started pulling all the logs out. He said, "It's only a juvenile, don't worry." And he was wearing a pair of sunglasses, and out it came, and it was up and it started, doing its thing, spitting in his eyes, which is how they get you. But he was wearing his glasses. Anyway, he I think he was trying to be sort of macho, as these guys can often be. And after he'd sort of dealt with the snake and put it back into the wild, he said, "I'm just going to try and lick my glasses to see what it's like."
No.
Yeah.
Seriously?
And then he didn't appear for the rest of the day, and then the following morning he looked rough as hell. And he said, "I don't think I'll be doing that again."
Yeah, so let this be a lesson to you, dear listener. Do not lick snake venom.
No.
Listen, you spent 25 years with Keane, is that right?
That sounds right, yeah. And still spending some time with them as well. Yep.
And you're about to release your third solo album, which is coming out in September. Mm-hmm. Do you enjoy the process of writing alone, or is it more difficult without other people to bounce off?
I prefer writing with people, and I think that's one of the things about Keane is that the dynamic of Keane was set a very long time ago. I mean, 25 years ago, really. Which is that Tim is the primary songwriter, fabulous songwriter. It's been a great honour to sing those songs over the years and put a voice to them, and that's always been my job in Keane. But I think as time's gone on, particularly because I went through a period of quite serious addiction, after I got well, I sort of wanted to have this little creative part in my life, and so hence the solo records. And I do generally like to write with people, because I think you need that. Personally, I feel like I need that person to bounce ideas off and try and impress. I mean, that's the thing you're trying to do when you're collaborating with someone. You're trying to impress each other, and that drives you on. So, it's definitely an integral part of how I do things.
Your new album is called Midpoint, which is about, what, midlife crisis, is it?
Well, kind of. I mean, I suppose in a way it's about trying to head off those questions that inevitably come up at this point in life. I mean, it's a part of life that nearly everyone is going to go through or has been through. Yeah. And I think it's not really talked about that much. I mean, it's kind of often laughed off as people have the midlife crisis, but those can be quite serious things. People take those to quite serious extremes when it comes to it. So I wanted to write an album that was kind of unashamedly about this part of life, and I don't think anyone's really ever written an album about midlife.
What sort of things are you writing about?
So it's kind of about sort of weathering the storms that come along. I mean, I have now I suddenly arrive at this point in my life, and it's like the brakes have been put on. I'm no longer kind of the young buck sort of going in this direction of wanting to be the biggest and the best and adored and chasing ambitions. It's much more it's a much more reflective part of life, and it's sort of firstly looking back at what I've done and what I've created and where I am now and where I want to go to. And I think suddenly that raises a lot of questions. For example, my own little empire, we were talking before we were on air about my little family and that being my kind of home and my little empire. And I think for a lot of people, they get to this point in life and they think, oh, is this what I want? Do I want to just tear it all down while I've still got time and cop off with someone new and start a whole new life. But it does happen.
It does happen, yeah.
And I think I'm not immune to that. I've certainly experienced that and felt those questions come up for me. So that's definitely one part of it. I think
have you bought the sports car or the motorbike yet?
Funnily enough, I did that when I was a bit younger. I did that in the first kind of flush of Keen's success. I had all the silly cars. So no, but I think for me, I mean, I have a lot of. I'm still having therapy, and I think a lot of those questions came up in therapy, and thankfully I was able to kind of process them and talk through them before I really kind of acted on anything. And I think that's probably saved me. And also, I've got an album out of it, which is quite handy.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to play the new single, which we absolutely adore, which is called Gravitational. What's the story behind this?
Well, this is really, I suppose, a song about looking back on life, realising that however far I've kind of been pushed and pulled and felt like kind of distanced from my wife and my kids and that place that I've built, I've always felt this kind of urge to go back there, to be drawn back there. And we all need that, I think. We all need that little place we can call home, in whatever way we kind of choose to frame it. We all need that place in our lives. And so it's about that kind of irresistible gravitational pull to be back there, however far you kind of step away from it.
We're going to play it right now, and we'll chat more right after this.
Thanks.
Brilliant new single from Tom Chaplin, which is called Gravitational. And Tom Chaplin is our guest this morning here on Radio 2.
Hello.
Getting loads of messages in. Gary, say hi to Tom. Can't wait to listen to the new album. We'll be seeing him at St David's Hall in Cardiff in October.
Lovely.
Kaz, normally from Wales, but listening in from Vancouver.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so you're on tour in October.
Yes, yep. TomChaplinMusic.com. Go there and you can find all the dates. I think it's really interesting. Quite different to the Keen show, my solo show. I like it to be really informal, not to have that sense of kind of the posturing rock show, which is great fun to do. But it's I want to sort of invite questions from the audience and conversation with the audience and make it a kind of really intimate, beautiful experience. So I think it'll be an interesting thing. I hope people want to come along.
Ellen says, please say good morning to Tom from the Netherlands. Tom's sounding great this morning. You'd never known he's been up since silly o'clock. Looking forward to the new album. And Johnny Selford said, so refreshing to hear conversations about midlife and mental health on the radio. Tom Chaplin is brilliant.
Oh,
there you go.
That's nice.
So the new album, Midpoint, you recorded this quite differently to your previous solo albums, didn't you?
Yes, very differently. I mean, when I first started making records with Keen, that was early 2000s, and that really, computers had arrived at that point. So a lot of music pretty much all music was being made digitally, and sort of layering things up. So you start with the drums and then you move to the bass. So it was quite a kind of I suppose not a very kind of like a bandy way of making music. You wouldn't all get in the room and play.
Yeah,
and
you record your individual parts.
Exactly. You've explained it much better than I did. But yes, but this record I made with a producer called Ethan Johns, who's
legend,
absolute legend, and is very kind of old school. He likes recording to proper analog tape.
Oh, really?
He likes to get all the musicians in the room, and he wants to kind of capture the sense of them all kind of responding to each other. Mm-hmm. And so and so you get this sense of real kind of heart and soul. There are mistakes. There are there are bits where you can hear the piano stool creaking, and so it feels very real, but it has a sort of warmth and a heart and soul that you wouldn't get otherwise. And of course, Ethan, he wants the best gear, and so he wants to record in the best studios around the country. So we did this kind of amazing tour. We went to Peter Gabriel's place, Real World, which is fantastic. The church in Crouch End, which used to be Dave Stewart's studio. Yes, and a place in Wales actually that this young guy has converted. It's a kind of old Methodist chapel, and he's turned it into this fabulous studio, and he's totally obsessed with all the really fantastic kind of classic equipment. So he's got it all there, and so we had this absolute whale of a time going around all these fabulous studios and using that kind of atmosphere to inform the way the record sounded.
Last time you were on the Breakfast Show, you popped in because it was following your Masked Singer appearance.
Yes,
when you performed as Poodle.
Yeah.
That must have been quite a difficult secret to keep. Did you keep that secret from everybody?
The veins in the side of my head start to pop as soon as you mention poodle. It was... The whole thing was so bizarre. I mean, I found it in equal measures exhilarating and hilarious, but you know, the other side of it was very stressful. Firstly, as you say, trying to keep it secret.
Did you tell anyone? Did you tell the wife?
I told my wife, and my manager knew, and nobody else.
No
knew.
one else.
Not
So
my
the kids
daughter.
didn't know?
No. But they, you know, they pick you up from home, blacked out limo. You're driven up to this studio in the middle of nowhere. 15 minutes out, you have to put on your balaclava and your hoodie and your gloves so that nobody can see any part of you. And then you're sort of ushered in to a dressing room. And then really you go from there to getting dressed into your ridiculous costume, and you're straight out on Saturday night TV dressed as a poodle, and it's terrifying seeing 2 minutes of a song you never sung before.
I'm sure. Do you get to keep the costume?
No.
I know. Listen, it's been so lovely having you on today. Tom's new single, Gravitational, is out now. The album Midpoint is out on September the 2nd. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Gary, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.